Episode 2: The Garden of Eden remained as beautiful as the day God created it. Gentle rivers flowed through the land. Birds filled the air with joyful songs, and every morning the warm sunlight painted the trees with golden light. Adam and Eve lived without fear, without sorrow, and without shame. Every day they experienced the love of their Creator and enjoyed every good gift He had placed before them. But beyond the peace of the garden, an unseen battle had already begun. Long before humanity was created, one of God's angels had become proud. He desired God's glory for himself and rebelled against his Creator. His rebellion ended in defeat, and he was cast down. From that day forward, he became known as Satan, the adversary, the enemy of God and of all that God loves. Unable to overcome God, Satan turned his attention toward the people God had created in his own image. He entered the garden in the form of a serpent. Unlike any ordinary snake, this creature moved with unusual grace. Its emerald scales shimmered beneath the sunlight, and its eyes reflected intelligence and cunning. It waited patiently, watching Adam and Eve as they cared for the garden, searching for the perfect opportunity to plant doubt in their hearts. One day, Eve walked near the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The fruit hanging from its branches appeared beautiful, rich in color, and inviting. She had passed this tree many times before without giving it a second thought. But this time, someone was waiting. The serpent spoke in a calm and gentle voice. Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? The question sounded innocent, but it carried a dangerous purpose. Satan's first weapon was not force. It was doubt. Eve answered confidently, "We may eat fruit from the tree."
God said we must not eat from the tree in the middle of the garden. If we eat from it, we will die.
The serpent smiled. "You will certainly not die." With those few words, he openly challenged God's truth. Then he continued, "God knows that when you eat it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like him, knowing good and evil." Eve looked at the fruit again. It seemed beautiful. It seemed good to eat. It seemed to offer wisdom. The temptation grew stronger with every passing moment. Instead of trusting what God had said, she began trusting what she could see. Slowly, she reached out her hand. She picked the fruit from the branch. For a brief moment, everything stood still. Then Eve took the first bite. Nothing happened immediately. The trees still swayed in the breeze. The birds continued singing. The rivers continued flowing. Believing the serpent's words, she carried the fruit to Adam. Adam knew exactly what God had commanded. He understood the consequences. Yet standing beside Eve, he made his own decision. Instead of obeying God, he chose to follow Eve. He took the fruit into his hands. Then he ate. In that single moment, everything changed. Sin entered the world. The perfect relationship between humanity and God was broken. Fear entered where peace had once lived. Guilt replaced innocence. Shame covered hearts that had once been completely pure. Suddenly, Adam and Eve looked at one another differently. For the first time, they realized they were naked. Something inside them had changed. They were no longer the same people they had been only moments before. Overcome with embarrassment and fear, they quickly gathered large fig leaves and tied them together, trying to cover themselves. But no covering made by human hands could hide what had happened inside their hearts. As evening approached, they heard the familiar sound they had always loved. God was walking in the garden. Before this day, they would have run toward him with joy. Now they ran away. Hiding among the trees, they hoped somehow the Creator of the universe would not find them. Then God's voice called through the garden, "Adam, where are you?" It was not a question asked because God lacked knowledge. He already knew where Adam was. The question was an invitation, an opportunity for Adam to step out of hiding and face the truth. Trembling with fear, Adam finally answered, I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." God replied with another question. "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree I commanded you not to eat from?" Silence filled the garden. Then Adam spoke. "The woman you gave to be with me. She gave me the fruit, and I ate." Instead of accepting responsibility, Adam blamed Eve. In doing so, he even hinted that God himself was responsible. God turned toward Eve. "What is this you have done?" With tears in her eyes, Eve answered, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." She too shifted the blame. But no excuse could undo what had already happened. The choice had been made. The consequences had begun. God first addressed the serpent. "Because you have done this, you are cursed above all creatures. You will crawl on your belly, and there will be hostility between you and humanity throughout history." Then God spoke words that carried both judgment and hope. One day, a descendant of the woman would crush the serpent's head, though the serpent would strike his heel. It was the first promise of redemption. Even in the moment of humanity's greatest failure, God revealed that evil would not have the final victory. Turning to Eve, God explained that life would now be marked by sorrow and hardship. Childbirth would become painful, and the perfect harmony that once existed would be affected by the entrance of sin. Then God spoke to Adam. "Because you listened to the voice of your wife instead of obeying my command, the ground itself is now cursed because of sin. No longer would food grow effortlessly." From that day forward, Adam would work the soil through sweat and hardship. Thorns and thistles would cover the earth. Life would become difficult, and one day, having been formed from dust, Adam's body would return to dust. Death had entered the world. Yet even in judgment, God's mercy was still visible. Adam and Eve stood before him wearing their fragile coverings of fig leaves. They had tried to hide their shame by their own efforts, but their efforts were never enough. In an act of compassion, God made garments of skin for Adam and Eve and clothed them himself. It was a reminder that only God could truly cover humanity's shame. Then the time came for the hardest moment of all. Because sin had entered the world, Adam and Eve could no longer remain in Eden. If they ate from the tree of life in their fallen condition, they would live forever separated from God's perfect holiness. So, in both justice and mercy, God sent them out of the garden. With heavy hearts, Adam and Eve walked toward the eastern gate. Each step carried them farther from the home they had always known. They looked back one final time. The rivers still sparkled. The flowers still bloomed. The trees still stood in breathtaking beauty. It was the paradise they had lost through one act of disobedience. Then mighty cherubim appeared, standing guard at the entrance to the garden. Between them flashed a blazing sword of fire, turning in every direction, preventing anyone from returning to the tree of life. The gates of Eden were closed,